All right, guys, have you ever seen this picture? This little girl with Elvis. Elvis has his eyes closed in the photo. Well, guess what? That little girl is right here in front of us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Janice Fadal, Eddie Fadal's daughter, and this is the home where Elvis used to come visit when he was stationed a few miles down the road at Fort Hood.
And Janice, fans can now stay here.
Absolutely, it's an Airbnb. It's called the Elvis House, and it is in Waco, Texas. So if you're coming to visit Magnolia, or you're just an Elvis fan that you want to come see the house that Elvis used to come to, come on down. We'd love to have you.
Well, Globetrotting with Trey is staying here tonight, so I can't wait to experience the Elvis Waco house that Janice grew up in.
That's right.
All right, so I guess right now I'm in a kitchen.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do with you, Trey, is to take you through each room and tell you what happened in this room as it relates to Elvis and his stays here.
So we are going to get the ultimate tour
You are.
by Janice, who was actually in a photo in this house with Elvis Presley.
That's right.
Let's do it.
Okay, all right, let's get started. This is part of the kitchen. Back when Elvis used to visit, this was more of a sitting room. We had our television over here in the corner, where now we've got an old stereo, but the television was in that corner and it faced that way, actually, just the way that is. And there was a chair over here and a sofa over here. Elvis loved to come in our back door. He considered himself family, so he would come through the back door where Trey just entered and stroll through the house. The first thing he would do would be to walk through the house in its entirety, look into each room, and make sure that nobody else was in the house except for our family. So he was scouting the place before he could relax. And a lot of things happened in this room. One, I'll tell you, when I was a little girl, and this all happened when I was 4.5, 5 years old, I had a little table right here. And I would sit at the table in a little tiny chair and I would draw. And out this window, I could see cars that would drive up and down the street. And one day I was sitting here and I saw a black limo slowly pulling up on 29th Street there. And I knew instantly it was Elvis because he had visited before and always arrived that way. And so I jumped up from my chair and went running to find my parents and tell them that Elvis was here, because that started just a flurry of events that would happen. My mom would have to start cooking if she hadn't already started cooking. My dad would get, change out of his grubby clothes and put on something nice. And so that was a big event, and it happened often enough that I knew that was Elvis when he arrived. And it wasn't just one limo, it would be several that would park down the street and kind of alert the neighbors that somebody was at our house who was very special. So that was one of the things that at this very window, I would see Elvis coming. I think Trey might have shown you the carport outside. And Elvis loved that carport. He wanted to go back to Graceland, and he did go back to Graceland and build one just like that.
So when he saw your carport, your dad's carport, mom and dad's, it gave him the idea of that carport that we know at Graceland.
That's right. That's
great.
Yeah, that's a cool story. So that happened outside. Another thing that happened in this room, we were all, when my mom and dad would entertain guests would be all over the house. Some would be in the living room, some would be in the kitchen. Elvis liked to hang out in the kitchen a lot, so he was back here a lot. The kitchen is all original as far as the cabinets go, so that was the way it looked when Elvis visited here. One day we were in the back of the house, and someone looked out the window and went to get my dad and said, "There's a bunch of kids outside and they're all carrying baseball bats. And it doesn't look good. They're all boys. We're a little scared about this." So my dad was going to go call the police or something. He looked out the window. This window, he could see all these kids in the yard by the carport and in the street. And he went to Elvis and said, "Elvis, what do you want me to do with these kids? What do you think we should do?" And Elvis said, "Well, Eddie, why don't you go talk to them and let's just see what they want, Couldn't be too bad, but some of the guys felt threatened. For some reason, I guess it was the baseball bats that did it. So Daddy went outside and talked to the boys, and it turned out that they were Elvis fans, and they just wanted to meet Elvis. And they knew he was here because there were limos up and down the road. So they wanted to meet Elvis, maybe get an autograph to give to their friends or show their friends. And so Elvis graciously walked outside and stood and talked to the boys for a long time and signed their autographs. The reason they had baseball bats is they were just down the street on a baseball field practicing and having a fun time, and they were walking home and they saw the limos, so they wanted to meet Elvis. So
that happened right here in the backyard.
Right here, 2807 Lasker, Waco, Texas.
That's great, Janice.
That was a good one.
And I noticed you have all these pictures on the wall.
Yeah, we have, and I tell the stories that happen in each room, and I have them in little frames in every room, so you can kind of, if you visit, you can relive the stories here. And we got all these pictures of Elvis. This is the coolest one and the most personal one in this room, because that's my father with Elvis, and they are in Dallas, in Oak Cliff, and they're at a little diner. Elvis was hungry, so they had been shopping at an Army-Navy surplus store around there. Mm-hmm. And Elvis wanted to get a bite to eat, so they hopped into this little diner, and Elvis is having a bowl of chili and some saltine crackers. So that's what he wanted. It looks like he has some ketchup there and a glass of water. It doesn't look like my dad wanted anything. So they just stopped in at this diner, and word got out in Dallas that Elvis Presley was down in Oak Cliff shopping. So a newspaper reporter showed up, and this was the picture that he got.
Wow.
So.
And guess what, Janice? What? Globetrotting with Trey.
Yeah.
May know where that building is, and there may be a future episode.
I hope so.
Where Elvis and your dad once upon a time.
Very cool. I will watch that one for sure. I watch as many as I can. They're awesome videos. Trey you do a great job.
But this one's going to be one of the best, no doubt. These fans are going to enjoy this one because of the stories that you have of the place, and just knowing that right in here where I'm standing at, Elvis would walk in and out to go back to his back bedroom, which we'll see here in a little bit.
We sure will. There's another funny story that happened when Elvis was visiting. As I said, he would walk through the house first to make sure no one was here. Mm-hmm. So he was sitting in a chair over here, watching the TV was on. He was watching TV. And all of a sudden, this man walks through the back door that Elvis had never seen before. And he goes, "Where's Eddie?" to Elvis. And Elvis was just taken aback. And it turned out it was my dad's brother, Louie. And Louie was the funniest man you've ever met. He was so hilarious. But he was also a real person. He didn't probably even know who Elvis was sitting there. So he really completely ignored him, except for asking where my father was. So Louie walks all the way through the house trying to find my dad, finally finds him. And they have a conversation about whatever it was that Louie thought was so important to come over to talk about. And after he left, Elvis went up to my dad and he goes, "Who was that?" And he said, "That's my brother, Louie." And he goes, "Oh, okay, all right." Well, turns out a few weeks later, Elvis was here and he wanted hamburgers. And he wanted hamburgers in the backyard. Well, we didn't have a grill, and we didn't have, a nice patio where we could all gather. So guess who my father calls? He calls his brother Louie, who lived just right down the street. And Elvis packed Eddie, my father said, "Elvis, you remember my brother that you met that day? Would you mind going to his house and we can do the burgers over there? He's got a great outdoor grill. We can party on his patio. They've got a piano." And Elvis said, "Sure," because Elvis was so impressed that Louie wasn't a starstruck person that just made over Elvis, pretty much totally ignored him. And Elvis loved that. He loved that about Louie. So yeah, we packed everything up. My mom brought the hamburger meat, all the fixings for hamburgers, and we went over to Louie's. And I remember being there, and Louie's daughter was a little bit older than me. She might have been a teenager. and she got to dance with Elvis out there on the patio. And they pulled the record player, 45 record player, outside, put it outside, turned it up as loud as it would go so that they could dance. And people were dancing and just having a great time. And it was such a nice day. I'll just never forget that.
That's great. But your uncle walked in this door right here. Elvis is sitting there. Just walks right by Elvis. Hey, where's
Eddie?
And he didn't even care. Because Elvis loved that, no doubt. Because, oh man, okay, I like this.
He did. He really did.
I'm just a normal guy now.
Yeah, he liked to be considered a normal guy most of the time. You know, he wanted very basic, simple food that my mom would cook for him here in the kitchen.
What would your mom cook?
What's that?
Hold your thought, but what would your mom cook?
My mom would cook. He loved pinto beans.
Okay.
One day he dropped in with his mom and dad and Granny, Minnie Mae. He dropped in. They were on their way to Dallas to go see a movie. And they just happened to drop by. And Mom had a pot of pinto beans on the stove that she had just cooked. And she would put bacon in it and stuff like that. Well, Elvis loved country cooking and he loved bacon. So he went over to the stove, which was right over here. And our dining table then, our little dinette set, was right here in the middle of the room because, like I said, that was a seating area. So he came over here and he pulled the top off the pot and he looked in, put the lid back down. He said, "I'll have some of those, please." So my mom made up a big pitcher of tea. She made some cornbread. She fed everybody. And they got back in their car and went on their way to Dallas to see the movie that they were going to go see.
That's great. So Gladys was here.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Gladys.
Because that was near the end of her life.
It was. This all started, some of these things started in 56.
Gotcha.
So Gladys passed away in 58 when Elvis was in the Army. This was probably spring, I would think, of 58. Something like that, when Gladys and Minnie Mae both came, and Vernon. So we knew the whole family. And Gladys loved kids. Apparently I sat on her lap. You know, I just don't remember that because I was so little.
Those stories took place in this house.
In this house.
And fans can stay here.
That's right.
That's awesome. All right, where to next?
Okay.
Or any more stories? Because you were going to tell me something else before I asked you.
That's all I was going to tell you was that our dining room table was here at that time.
Okay.
And our washer dryer was there, so it was very crowded.
Yeah.
You know, but that's where Elvis wanted to eat. That's where he wanted to sit. And he was a country boy that loved very basic foods and country foods. So when he would bring his friends over, they would want things like steaks and stuff, and Elvis wouldn't have it. He really wouldn't. He would have bacon. And so my mom, there's an alleyway right out that used to be right behind those little houses out of here. And on the far corner, I'll take you over there was a little grocery store that had a butcher, and he was the best butcher in town. So whenever Elvis would come or whenever we needed groceries, Mom would just go out the door, head down the alley, go to the store, get hamburger meat, buy bacon, buy whatever Elvis wanted, you know, buy a gallon of milk for us or whatever, and then come back. So she could just go out the door and in a matter of minutes she could come back with bacon. So Elvis liked burnt bacon, and a lot of the people with him wanted steaks. So it was great that there was a little store that close by.
Oh, simpler times.
Yeah. Simple times.
Yeah.
Simple times. Okay, so this is the kitchen, and like I told you, it's all original. All the cabinets are original. The pulls are original. So Elvis would have been in here a lot. Then we'll go on through to the dining room. You'll see that my dad is wearing this alpaca sweater, and that was Elvis's sweater. And when he took it off that night to put on his uniform, he laid it down, and my dad must have commented that it was a really nice sweater, and it was beautiful. It's black with this white trim. And Elvis said, "Well, Eddie, just take it. I don't need it." you know, I'm leaving. All I can wear is this uniform for the next 2 years, basically. So you can see my dad wearing it in this picture. Elvis had just taken it off to change into his uniform. And we just sold that at the Graceland auction recently.
You did. It was
Yeah.
recent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. So that piece had a lot of history and a lot of meaning.
That's great.
Yeah.
And if you do come here as well, you can read a lot of Elvis books. I see Linda Thompson's book over there. The Elvis Encyclopedia is right here.
We've got it.
Nipper, the RCA dog. This cool little promotional piece of EP.
Mm-hmm.
All kind of things, guys. Elvis, a 30-year chronicle.
Books all over the place.
Books all over the place, so you have to spend a few days here at this house.
Absolutely, we'd love that. I hope you've enjoyed the tour. I've made it as informative as I possibly could. So come see us. And we also have a book called Elvis Days that you might be interested in. It tells a lot of the stories that I've told today and others.
How do they purchase the book?
You can purchase that through our website, theelvishouse.com.
And on that website, can you rent the house, or do we go to
You
Airbnb?
have to go to Airbnb and search in Waco, Texas for the Elvis House.
And guys, all of those links are in this description of Globetrotting with Trey's episode. So all you have to do is go and click on it. And it's pretty much self-explanatory after that. Just follow the directions, book your stay, and come here and just have a good Elvis time.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Janice, for giving me the ultimate tour. Thank you, guys, for watching this episode of Globetrotting with Trey. Don't double dribble, as I always say. Subscribe to Globetrotting with Trey. Follow me in here, Janice. Subscribe to Globetrotting with Trey to stay updated with every new Elvis episode that I upload each Tuesday, and special ones here and there. Guys, one more time. Elvis was there once upon a time in his life in this photo, and you can be too. Book the Waco house today on Airbnb and let them know that Globetrotting with Trey sent you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you down the road.